Hey everybody, and welcome back to my lifestyle. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of breastfeeding. A lot of you guys have approached me and asked me to give you guys some breastfeeding tips and to talk about different things with breastfeeding, motherhood. So if you guys have anything that you would like to or have me talk about here on my channel, feel free to leave a request down in the comment section below, because I'd love to tackle all of these subjects while it's kind of fresh in my mind. And I am a first-time mother. I do have a 3-month-old son named Tristan. So I am, like I said, a new mom. I'm not a pro by any means, but since a lot of things are fresh in my mind, I can remember kind of tips and tricks on how things were made easier for me and what I'm currently doing or what I may do, what I'm planning to do. So if you guys have any requests for anything having to do with being a mommy, let me know down below. I know some of you guys wanted me to talk about being a stay-at-home mom and transitioning into being a new mom, so I'm definitely going to hit those up. I'm also going to be following this video up with a breastfeeding tip video, so be sure to come on back to my channel on Tuesday and I will have that up for you guys right away. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into this. So obviously you are the mom. If you're watching this video, you're interested in breastfeeding and you may be on the fence, because I know I wasn't sure. I was like, do I want a baby on my boob? That's kind of weird. I kind of feel like a pervert. But now that I'm actually breastfeeding and exclusively breastfeeding at that, it's nothing like you would think it would be. So I did want to share the pros and cons that I've experienced, and you guys can make the decision for yourself. It's just meant to share my personal pros and cons, and you can make the best decision for you and your family. So the first pro I want to mention is that it's very convenient. I found that the first 6 weeks was a little bit tough, but now that I'm past that hump, definitely since I've stuck with it, it's super convenient. I can feed my baby anywhere in my house. If I'm out in public, you know, it can be a little bit more difficult, but I still don't have to like put a whole bottle together. I can just go out to my car and feed my baby really quick and then we're good to go. Or most places even have mother rooms where you can go and sit and breastfeed your baby, or family restrooms which don't have a toilet in it, but you know, they have like a recliner and things like that. So that way you and your husband or your partner can go in and feed the baby. So I find that it's super convenient. I absolutely love it now that I've stuck with it, and I'm really happy that I've done so. Another major pro is that it's the best thing for the baby. Your breast milk is perfectly made for your baby. The baby's saliva from the tongue translates a message to your breast and your body to tell the body exactly what the baby needs. So if your baby is sick, your body will essentially rush your antibodies to the baby and kind of, you know, revive the baby's immune system and get the baby going. And also I want to mention that the first 3 days when you have your colostrum in your breast, which is kind of a thick honey-like substance, it provides antibodies for your baby for the rest of their life. I was super amazed with this when the hospital told me this. They're like, this colostrum that you are feeding your baby is providing antibodies that are going to last the rest of his life. So that alone is amazing. Even if you breastfeed just the colostrum, that's a huge accomplishment, because like I said, breastfeeding is tough. It does take a little bit to get the hang of, but it's amazing. You're giving the baby the best thing that the baby can have. Another thing I wanted to mention is that your body makes the correct amount for the baby. The baby knows just how much to take to be satisfied. With the bottle, you have to measure, so there's no measuring with breast milk. You don't have to measure anything. You don't have to use special waters for a bottle. Most of the time when you make a bottle, you have to either boil the special water and then you have to use that, and it's a lot of work. And a lot of times babies will spit up because of the fact that, you know, they're being overfed. With breastfed babies, they spit up less. My baby hardly ever spits up unless he's really overindulged or I was maybe engorged. And that can happen when the baby goes through a growth spurt. Your milk supply will kind of up and the baby's got to kind of regulate itself. But it's perfect for the baby, like I said, because they can kind of tell when they are satisfied more so than with the bottle, because the bottle is just a faster flow. And so they can't tell when they're full right away. One of the things that I really appreciated with breastfeeding was at night. I was able to get a lot more sleep than I think somebody who would formula feed. I didn't have to get up at night. Again, going back to the measuring, I didn't have to measure anything, use water, wake up the whole house and turn the lights on and get the baby fully awake. And that's another way that I established my baby's sleep schedule. I was able to keep the lights dim, just wake up with the baby, feed the baby, and burp the baby and go back to sleep. So it was really simple. Now he knows at night when the lights are dimming that it's time for nighttime. I wouldn't talk to the baby really excitedly. You know, I would just feed the baby and then we could go back to sleep. So that was a really amazing time. I mean, there was 2 weeks where I felt exhausted, and after that I have not felt sleep deprived at all. So I really love that part of breastfeeding. Another thing is there's no bottle washing. You don't have to wash any bottles. I own 3 bottles that I use for when I go out, and that's all. And I have my pump, which came with 4 containers, and I just have to wash those and sanitize those occasionally as well. So there's no bottle washing with breastfeeding. Also, another thing that I just researched recently is that it can give your baby a higher IQ. So if you breastfeed up to 9 months, from the 9th to the 12th month, that's when your baby gets that higher IQ with your breast milk. So it's super amazing how it can help everything from all the vitamins and the nutrients to the brain to helping your baby be a little more advanced in the future. So that's super amazing and a reason to keep breastfeeding on to a full year. Also, it is recommended that you breastfeed babies until age 2. Again, that is personally up to parents, whether or not you want to wean your baby or the baby weans him or herself after a certain amount of time. But in the 2nd year, it provides tons of nutrients and essential vitamins for the baby that food cannot provide. It also provides a lot of brain food for the baby again as well, that again baby food and baby cereal can't provide. Obviously, you want to incorporate solids during that time, but it's still great to give the baby some breast milk. Even if you express it during the day and put it in a sippy cup for the baby, that's kind of what I'm planning to do. We will see what the baby and I decide to do in the future, but that's kind of my plan so far. Another thing that I noticed was that I have a really close bond with my baby with breastfeeding. It was kind of amazing because it's the only thing that I was able to do that nobody else can for the baby. So he depends on me for food, and I don't know, it just gives us this sense of closeness. And another thing that you guys may like is that breastfeeding helps you lose weight faster. So that's not a reason to breastfeed. Obviously, you want to do it for the right reasons, but it does help your uterus shrink down after going into labor. Your uterus needs to shrink down to size, and breastfeeding helps to do it faster. And you also burn, I believe it's 20 to 30 calories per ounce that the baby eats per day. So you can burn up to like 650 calories. I think it's like 300 to 650 calories per day. So definitely a plus on the breastfeeding side. So those were my pros. I know that there's a lot more, but I don't want to make this video super long. Definitely research, Google, check it out, because that's how I made my decision on deciding to breastfeed once I saw that it provided the baby with tons of things that obviously formula could not. These are the cons for breastfeeding that I have found so far. The first one was it's very hard to get away. And by get away, I mean it's very hard to have a moment to yourself. If you want to get out of the house to go do a little something, it'd be very difficult when you're exclusively breastfeeding, because the first 3 to 4 weeks they recommend that you do not give a baby a bottle because of nipple confusion. It can get them to where they're more interested in a bottle because it's less work than it is to breastfeed, and so you don't want to give them a bottle. So if you wanted to have a moment to yourself and maybe go have lunch with a girlfriend really quick, or you know, just kind of go get your nails done and get yourself feeling a little bit pretty, it can be difficult because the baby can be going through a growth spurt. Sometimes babies will eat every 20 minutes when they're going through a growth spurt, so it's very hard to get away at the beginning, but it's definitely worth it. I'm so glad that I have stuck it out. So that is definitely a con though. It is very hard to get away. Another thing is, I did mention at night that, you know, it is very convenient to feed the baby without having to measure and all that stuff, but it is also very difficult because when you are tired, you cannot get any help feeding the baby because the baby depends exclusively on you. So your partner isn't able to help you with obviously feeding the baby. Your partner can be supportive and kind of get up with you, maybe burp the baby for you so you can get back to bed and maybe put the baby back to sleep. Those are things that my husband would help me do, especially since I had a C-section, but that was a little bit difficult for me on the first 2 weeks because I was super tired. I had just had the C-section. All I wanted to do was sleep and rest and get past the pain, but you know, I had to feed the baby, so that was definitely a con. Another thing at the very beginning of breastfeeding that can be a con is that it's very tiring. It makes you feel a little bit nauseated, well in my case, and it made me feel extremely drowsy and sleepy, and I just felt hungry all the time and extremely thirsty. I still get the thirst to this day and the hunger, but not as bad. Like, it feels like my body had to regulate to the baby's needs, and I don't get super drowsy anymore. I don't feel nauseous anymore and super exhausted. I was really exhausted. Like, my body was just, you know, having to exert so much energy that it didn't have to before, because again, you are burning calories, so it's like you're just working out all day, you're making milk and you're feeding somebody. So that was definitely a con at the beginning, but again, that has passed, that's over with. Another issue that can be a little bit I guess bothersome can be latch issues. If your baby does not latch on correctly to the areola, your nipples can get sore. I know mine got very bruised the first 3 days, but as soon as my milk came in, it like healed my nipples. Also, you can get chapped nipples, different things of that sort. And then with that also comes breast infections. When you breastfeed, you run the risk of getting infections if the baby doesn't latch correctly. If you don't empty your breasts right, you can get you can get clogged ducts, which are a little painful, but again, you just have to massage those out and they go away. That's going to be something that you're going to deal with throughout your whole breastfeeding journey. It can happen, so it's not something you'll deal with like every day, but it can happen at any time. So it's just something to be aware of and just kind of research like I did as well, and just know how to handle it right away, and then you'll be fine. I know when I had a clogged duct, I was like, oh my gosh, it hurt so bad. All I did was massage it really good. I used a heating pad and it was gone, and it was gone the next day, so I was pretty good. The last thing that can be a little bit inconvenient is having to pump for outings. Pumping is not as easy as some people like to make it seem. If you've never breastfed and you don't even have children, you may not understand that pumping a bottle takes a lot of work. And I commend those moms who exclusively pump, because it is very tough. Definitely, if you're exclusively breastfeeding, you're not going to get very much. It's not uncommon to only be able to pump 1 ounce. So that's usually what I get. I get 1 to maybe 2 ounces per session if I'm lucky. And that's about, I want to say like 10 or 15 minutes of pumping. And so my baby eats about 4 or 5 ounces now per sitting. And so you can only imagine it takes me 2 or 3 times per day just to get 1 bottle. So if I'm going to go out, I have to pump 2 or 3 times, and depending on how long I'm going to be out, I have to kind of, you know, plan for that. Like I have a concert coming up in February, so I'm trying to pump every day, and I'm putting a stash in the freezer. So that's another thing. You have to stash milk in the freezer, so that can be a little bit of a con, a little bit inconvenient. But once you get a stash going and you can just get out of the house and know that you have milk there, you're good to go. The last con that I want to mention is that it also goes hand in hand with all of that. You cannot be away from your baby too long, because your boobs will get engorged and they will get sore and they need to be relieved. So there's no way that I could go out with friends for like 6 hours and just hang out. I can only go, for me personally, I can go like 4 hours maximum, and then I need to come home and pump, or I need to pump somewhere. So that can be a con as well. Again, it's all well worth it for my baby. I'm super happy to do it. Again, I'm not like huge on going out, so it's just sacrifice you make for your child. This is a small portion of my life. The baby's not going to breastfeed forever, so definitely I'm happy to do it so he gets the best. And yeah, so definitely follow up with me on my breastfeeding tips video. If you guys have any questions about breastfeeding, let me know so I can include it in that video, or maybe make a new one. But yeah, this is what I have found to be pros and cons with breastfeeding. I hope this helped those of you guys that are researching, and maybe those of you guys that are breastfeeding and didn't know these things and are watching. I'm happy to share my knowledge with you. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!